Okay, not a problem. And we will be live very shortly. Very shortly. Welcome to the Willy Bragg Show. I am Willy Bragg, and today I will be discussing free speech absolutism with Nays Garten. And here he is, and you know, we'll be ready and whenever he's ready. And so, um, what's up, everyone? Okay.
Willy, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm glad to have you on simultaneously. So we've got a simulcast going on here, and that's exciting. For everyone who doesn't know Willy, he came on the show last week, and I believe that was last week, and we discussed free speech absolutism. We had a great conversation, and I was having technical difficulties, and those are all solved right now. So we're going to have an uninterrupted interview here with Willy, and we're really looking forward to that. I do have questions ready to go. But before we start, Willy, is there anything you want to promote? Aside, I've been promoting your channel, but it's Willy Bragg TV on YouTube. He's also, I want to say Willy Bragg TV at Twitter. Is it at Willy Bragg TV or is it?
Yeah, it's Willy Bragg. It's twitter.com/Willy Bragg TV. I believe it is. Yeah, I believe. And let me just check that real quick. Sometimes I forget.
I put mine on the screen now.
Yeah, Willy Bragg TV. Willy Bragg TV. Yes, it is.
Is there anything else you got going on you want to promote?
I every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do live stream in partnership with Cabarrus News Group, KRTD Media, that is, and yeah, I just basically do what I do during the week. However, I do it in partnership with them. It's just our way of basically promoting each other in the name of corporate, again, to try to counterbalance corporate media, basically to promote independent media. We're helping each other, in other words. It's all in the name of promoting independent media, using as a priority over corporate media.
Excellent. And we're glad to have you, and we're glad to have you promote anything that you have going on. Because like you said, all we have right now really are each other, because everybody's being subverted with algorithms and being muzzled and being silenced, and it's nice to have these conversations speaking out against it, and I love having you on to talk about it. So
thank you, I appreciate that. Yes.
Okay, you ready for the second barrage of questions?
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready for that barrage of questions right now.
Okay, here we go. Right. So this one says, is an absolutist okay with lines of people screaming at women walking in and out of health clinics?
They have a right to their viewpoint. They do not have a right to harass the women. In other words, they do not have the right to interfere with their access, and they do not have the right to. They do not have a right to. They don't have a right to physically stop them and they do not have a right to verbally abuse them, but they have a right to express their opinion on the subject matter, if that makes any sense.
As far as a free speech absolutist goes, holding up vulgar, what someone might consider vulgar posters or offensive images while these women are trying to go in and out, that would be okay.
Let's see. Reproductive rights, regardless of whatever my personal opinion or somebody else's personal opinion would be, must be protected under the law because of a woman's health. And it must be between her and her doctor. And that's what it must be. Those who are quote unquote pro-life, they're entitled to their free speech. They do not have a right to physically interfere. They have a right to protest, but I would say I'm not 100% sure as far as the distance, and I'm not, but as far as the content, they have a right to say whatever they want to say on what, as far as the content's concerned.
I want you to realize, I don't know how much of an authority you are on free speech absolutism, and I just want you to know, I don't consider you, some expert or anything. I don't want you to have some kind of pressure on you that we're thinking that you need to speak in absolutes at all. And if there's something that you're not comfortable with, or that you want to refer to something else, that's fine. Just say, yeah, this is how I feel about it. I'm not so sure. And we can investigate it, because I'm learning, bro. And I love just you reaching and trying to remember everything you know about this. And it's almost like we're both learning at the same time sometimes. So I think it's really cool. If that's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't pretend to be an expert.
Cool. Yeah, that's perfect, brother. Perfect. And I've learned so much. The most important thing I've learned talking to you so far.
And what's that?
I'm a free speech absolutist.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. I found out that I'm also a free speech absolutist. I couldn't wait to tell you that. So the next question comes from somebody from the audience who watches all the time. He's very talented. Someone that is he relies on free speech to do what he does. His form of expression in art, on the internet, in real life, all the things that he's ever done relied on him being able to express himself. So this comes from Billy Ballantyne, and what he says is, absolutists believe that the wording "Congress shall make no law" in the First Amendment means that neither the federal nor state governments may pass laws that abridge the individual rights of religion, speech, press, and association. So, can religions that kill people with Kool-Aid be able to just do so and get away with it, as far as a free speech absolutist goes?
Well, okay. You mean something like what happened in Jonestown, for example? And I would say that as far as the end game of somebody dying, now that's where the line is drawn. I mean, I'll give you an example, probably a less controversial example, all those controversial. For example, a Jehovah's Witness, for example, they don't believe in blood transfusions. Now, if an adult don't believe in a blood transfusion, that's on them. But if a child, I don't care what their religious beliefs are. I think the state ought to intervene and save the child, and they kind of contradict themselves, because those people don't believe in abortion rights, but then they'll let their kid die if the kid needs a blood transfusion. I don't understand that. But anyway.
That kind of touches on libertarianism right there when we talk about states' rights. And
I mean, I don't know. It's because you were saying something about the Kool-Aid, and I was thinking about the Jonestown incident and all of it.
Let's take it to a different step. Let's say your religion says that you're not allowed to view certain material. If a religion is trying to step on your rights of free speech or expression, or to read a book or whatever, does a free speech absolutist prosecute the religion for violating free speech? Or
if you belong to a certain tradition, and you belong to that tradition, and they say this is what you don't do, that's up to you to obey that particular faith, because they're the ones that make up the rules in that church or that institution. But that church or that institution does not have a right to infringe on or impose on the rest of society, whether it's Christianity or whether it's Islam or any other faith. I mean, I oppose the implementation of Sharia law, even on a limited case, for that same reason. Because to me, it's kind of like you oppose, Christianity kind of meddling into people's affairs, you would sort of do the same thing too. I don't understand that, like in Western Europe, where they have some Sharia recognized in a limited way. Seems like it will kind of contradict the mainstream law that exists in those countries.
Sharia is possibly one of the those third rail type religions when you're talking about free speech, isn't it? That's the one, man. I mean, it's, what are we going to do? What do we allow? Are we going to watch and let somebody cut somebody's head off because of they were cheating on their spouse? Or are you allowed to surgically go after the genitals of a girl because the religion says it's okay? And like you said, when it comes down to hurting someone, when it comes down to violence against someone, that all falls into that category. And I'm with you on that. I mean, who am I, as someone coming not from Sharia law at all, to look at another religion and say, you guys can't do that. You subscribe to that. That's your belief. And you all, because you say it's your religion, that's how you all agree to that. And then you start thinking about, well, some of these people might not have a choice. So then the free speech absolutist has to look at that and say, hey, you got to break a few eggs, I guess that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, as I said, whatever, I'm not trying to pick on any religion per se, but I'm just saying whatever religion it is, if anything that's kind of restrictive within that faith, if whoever believes in that faith, somebody chopping somebody's head off. I mean, obviously the state's should intervene there, and it should not allow that sort of thing that happen, or the state should not allow people use their spouse or like, for example, not beating up on Mormons. I mean, we don't allow Mormons to, the fundamentalist Mormons, for example, to marry multiple spouses. And I'm not picking on them. I'm just giving that as an example right there. There's always something that's a little bit weird about all religions, every one of them. Yeah.
That's, I got to thank Billy for that question. It's really, it was an interesting little walk we took there. And I think, it covered a lot. So Billy, thank you for that wonderful question. He's in the chat right now. So we've got the next question here is, does absolutism apply to a private company?
That's really interesting, because the right wing sort of try to have it both ways when it comes to free speech on that one. And, they'll be like, well, or they get upset if somebody gets in big trouble for making an anti-gay joke or anti-trans joke or a racially insensitive joke or something like that. But somebody gets fired or reprimanded, there will be like, they want to go and defend that person. But then these same people they're okay with somebody getting fired for organizing a union, which is a free speech right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as far as, let's say, social media companies and free speech, whenever you're looking at Twitter or Facebook and, the obvious moderation that is going to happen for the types of things that are hate speech, violence, calls to violence, and things like that. When we start seeing people being penalized because an algorithm is misunderstanding satire, we know already that we've taken the control of our speech too far on social media. These are private companies that do this, and it's almost like religion. We all agree to these rules if we're going to use the service. So that might drive you to go find, another place that allows you to say whatever you want. And while some of these places might exist, there doesn't seem to be one main free speech social media platform where people really migrate to that seems to be as successful as like a YouTube or a Twitter or Facebook. So what is the most popular out of all of the options that anyone could go to for a free speech forum where they're going to be able to see videos of people like you, or maybe even interact with you live on a podcast? Is there a platform that you would recommend for free speech absolutists?
It's kind of hard right now. The options. Well, I mean, I know Rumble. I'm trying to get up to 100 followers on Rumble so I can start live streaming along on YouTube and Twitch. That is what I'm trying to do, and hopefully, if I can do that, I can increase my visibility in the online left, sphere. Get my presence out there a little bit more. However, the options are kind of limited. I don't want to go on BitChute because BitChute is filled with a lot of right-wing crazies out there, and I don't want to be associated with that. They have a right to believe what they want to believe and advocate what they want to advocate, but I just don't want to be associated in that kind of area. Or go to Gab or some places like that, because, honestly, even though they claim to be free speech areas, they're really not going to defend the free speech of the left anyway.
Well, I have to tell you, on Rumble, I've done everything that I ever got in trouble for on YouTube and more. I play video. Bro, we could watch Star Wars together on Rumble live, the whole movie, and they won't do anything. Right now, that's the way it's set up. I know that's shocking, right? Any copyrighted material, music, anything you want to say, Rumble seems to be, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we're broadcasting to Rumble right now. But what I really want to do right this second is get your Rumble address, which I'm assuming is Willy Bragg TV. It's going to be Rumble at Rumble.
I'll tell you what's going to be on. I'll tell you what's going to be. I got a different URL for Rumble. Give me just a quick second. I can tell you what it is.
Add to the people in the chats here.
Yeah, let's see. Let me find it real quick. Just give me a second here. I apologize.
No. Don't worry. Take your time. Take your time, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, give me a couple of seconds and let's see. Let me do this here real quick.
Willy Bragg Show. And Willy Bragg Show.
Yeah, it's going to be for Rumble. It's going to be. Why can't I find it there? It's not there. hold on. I'll tell you where it is.
You're Bragg leftist. Willy Bragg leftist.
Yeah, that's what it's called. That's what it says on the. That's what it says up there. Hold on. I can tell you. I give you the exact URL. In just.
I've got the URL.
Oh, you got it?
Oh yeah. I'm putting it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
There you go in Facebook. Here you go over on YouTube. And now my Rumble page. Seven people watching on Rumble. Right on, guys.
All right.
And everybody on Rumble, there it is. I subscribe to all three of your Willy Bragg channels, but I'm definitely subscribed to that one now too. So let's get him to 100 so he can start live streaming, guys, on Rumble. I paid the $10 a month for it, just to start. And then I got to 100 and then I discontinued my $10 a month thing.
Yeah, I had like one video I've actually uploaded up there last year when I got suspended on YouTube for a week for them. I think I told you last week I got suspended from YouTube for a week for them taking my words out of context.
Yes.
And Deep Fat Fry with the which is a program with the Amazing Atheist and his brother Scotty and Paul Markey. They also got their program taken off the air for about a week for the similar reasons. They were making fun of election denial, people who were denying the election of 2020. Going into the conspiracy theories, and the algorithms interpret them as engaging in the conspiracy theories, and so they were pulled down for a while too. And
can I show you? Oh wait, you froze for a second. Your video froze up. I can hear your audio. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Okay.
Let me show you one of my tricks. See, whenever we don't want to get a medical misinformation talking about COVID or something. So if I talk about, that's what I do. I don't say the word. I just go, and everyone knows that. Okay. Yeah, you know, I'll go like, if I want to talk about these, I'll use code words for so many things. It's hilarious, and I do it, of course, in my titling as well for my videos. It's sad that I have to do that, but I feel like I'm a closeted podcaster, and I'm like having to just podcast by candlelight, you know, in a basement with 6 or 7 people down there with me hiding from the algorithm police, you know.
I usually have to go get very loud and tell YouTube, I was screaming over the air. It's like, tell YouTube not to get angry, not to get the algorithms taking my words out of context. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is what I'm saying here. And I have
to do a disclaimer like for a whole minute before you say, just so whenever you do get the strike, because you know you're going to get it anyway, you could say, look, go 1 minute before, type it in there and say, go 1 minute before I said this was going to be blah, blah, blah. You know, usually they will be nice, but sometimes, man, when you get frustrated or if you write it the wrong way, they'll just totally ignore you and you'll get the 1 minute review. Oh, a human has reviewed this and decided, no, you sent that 1 minute later. That's not true. It's hit or miss with that stuff. But, oh man, don't get me started on that. This is interesting because it kind of goes along the next question. How does free speech absolutism affect copyright law when you're playing videos or movies on podcasts and things like that? And people are expecting to get paid for, revenue and whatever. But if it's free speech, can I take somebody else's speech and plagiarize it or use it? How does that work?
I guess I can understand where from a, as a socialist, it's going to sound weird for me saying this. I guess from a profit-based standpoint, I can understand where people are coming from as far as, wanting to protect what they created, what have you, or so I can understand getting permission to use certain types of music or what have you. What I don't understand are like news clips. Like if I take something from CNN or take something from Fox or whatever and play a clip in relation to what I need to discuss, sometimes they'll just take that down, just like, what the hell, I mean, and there's this thing called fair use that we're supposed to, we can kind of use news clippings, but apparently we can't.
Now that's a new one for me. News clippings,
video clips.
Video clips.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I've found out. Okay. The ones you cannot use are Jon Stewart, Apple TV. You cannot use HBO, Stephen Colbert. Okay. Nothing from HBO, nothing from HBO Max, nothing from Apple TV. But almost all of the mainstream media you can get clips from, and it won't be a problem. I do this all the time on my show. I'm always testing it because I've got 6 channels on YouTube. So in case one gets a strike, I can go broadcast to the other ones. It's always been like this for me. But for the most part, You want to be careful with like BBC documentary type stuff, because sometimes they get a little, they're like, no, you're using our stuff. We're going to mute our documentary in the middle of your podcast. For instance, they do a really good, there's a BBC documentary on Nazism in Poland and Ukraine in the sporting events. And I showed that. And on some of my channels, everything was fine. On another one of my channels, they said, you can't play this video in these countries and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I left it up on the other channels and the algorithms haven't caught it yet. But it's just, it depends on the content. Generally, and this is the other funny thing. Now they fixed a lot of this, Willie, actually, which is really good. For instance, it used to be if you played the wrong song, your video would get taken down. You'd get a copyright strike. Well, they changed that now, and I don't know if you know this, but now if you play the wrong song, they give the copyright holder options. They're like preset options. So if someone's using your content, you want to make money off of it, which should just be the default. And well, they finally made that the default. So anybody that is holding copyright will automatically share revenue with you if they do nothing. And that's the way it should be. If they want to be, oh, it's my material, blah, blah, blah. We don't want you using our material, or we don't like what you said about us or whatever. Then there's that option to where they can fully monetize your video, have their content that's in your video muted, or have your whole video taken down. And they give them a lot more control, but it's really, this system works so much better. And it's actually, it's unbelievable that they actually did something and they made it better. But yes, with copyright strikes now on YouTube, you can get away with almost everything. But there are still certain songs like the Eagles stuff you want to be careful with. And there's certain artists, Metallica, if you play their stuff, you're going to get a copyright strike instantly. So you have to know what those bands are. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. I try not if any music I try playing on my channel, I try to make sure it's royalty free. So and there's like a lot of royalty free stuff you can play up there. So I find something that's generic that I like the sound of, and I'll go. Sometimes it can be like a good background music or whatever. So.
Yes, I play live bands from Orlando that I go out and see, and their music is not copyrighted, and they love that I play their music on my show. So we'll play shows an entire evening with a local band, and we'll watch like 6 or 7 songs, while we're doing the podcast, and we don't have to worry about copyright, which is great. But it's an interesting dynamic because, right now copyright law is not jiving with free speech absolutism for sure. There's definitely some problems there. And luckily I've seen them making improvements with how to make it better, instead of, giving all the rights to the copyright holder, which basically they do anyway, but giving them, full, man, I've been punished, man. I've had strikes and my channel taken down, and horrible things happen because somebody was given more power over me. Someone was given the power to do it. They don't even know who you are, but
yeah, they have the power over us, for sure. And I mean, in a lot of ways, I just miss the Wild West approach toward free speech that used to exist on the internet, and especially in the early days of YouTube.
I do too. It was a dangerous place, but it was also a place you could go and say what you wanted to say and not have to worry about persecution or prosecution for it. Everyone used to be anonymous on the internet. Remember those days?
I sure do. Yeah. And I mean, sure. I remember I've had a lot of threats at me. I had a lot of insults. I mean, I've been called everything under the sun. I mean, but it is what it is,
Yeah. My favorite is when you get called a right winger and a shit lib in the same day.
I've been called. Listen, I have been called everything ideologically, everything that I'm not under the sun. I mean, every ideology that I do not identify with, I have been called that. So, yeah.
That's so you're willing. You obviously hear, you take the criticism. I'm hearing an echo. I just want to make sure that's not one of my shows, because I've got several feeds going. Now I've got everything muted. Okay, I think there might be a little echo from you, a little playback, but it's cool. Everything's fine. Because you're willing to listen to the criticism, it sounds like. So we were literally just talking about it. So this is my next question, which is perfect segue into this. How willing are you to listen to people you disagree with? To what extent?
I have friends from all walks of life, ideologically. I mean, I have friends who are Trump supporters. I date a Trump supporter, to tell you the truth. Long distance relationship, but we make it work out. So I mean, just. Yeah, she makes fun of my politics. So, but it's in good gesture. It's with affection, and I do the same. So, and I have people from SSL from all walks of life. I have people in my family, that has different politics. Yeah, I mean, and I associate with people from anywhere from libertarians to Leninists, from Tea Partiers and Trumpists to Trotskyists, from whatever you can imagine, from whatever you can imagine, and everything under the sun. And the only people I will not associate with are people who associate with Hitler, or anybody who thinks that the killing fields of Cambodia was a swell time. I have my limits, but they can believe what they want to believe. But I just won't associate with somebody who loves Hitler or somebody who loves Pol Pot.
Okay, so I mean, that's a lot. You're willing to listen to just about anything, and that's what free speech absolutism is. I like to think that it's allowing anyone to say whatever it is they want, wherever it is they are, and but if there's no one there to listen to it, what good is it? There's got to be listeners, and if there aren't people listening, I think that people are driven to forms of violence and frustration that could so easily be avoided just by letting people speak. This is it's kind of like a revelation for me, because often I have to block people in my live stream. They come in and say offensive things to me or troll me or whatever. And, in order to keep my regular audience members here, sometimes it's a necessity. But at the same time, I've been much more lenient over the last 2 years. I mean, I actually made a conscious effort. You know who Tim Black is?
Oh, yeah, yes, I do.
Tim Black, and I had a conversation with him, and he watched my material, and he said, "Man, you're too mean, bro." He says, "I watched your show." He says, "You're just too mean to your audience." He says, "If you could just try to not be so angry and mean towards them, because they're there watching you." And I at that point, if you go back 3 years on my show in California, and I just did recently, I was watching an old show, and I had 60 people watching my show. I would give a limb to have 60 people watching my show again. It's that important to me to have nice numbers, and 60 was a big deal. And on that day, I was blocking people as quick as I could. It was over nothing. It was over silly little disagreements or somebody making a comment that I thought was, whatever. That journey has led me to a whole other level of speech, where it's not just, trying to let people say more that they want to say, but finding out what free speech absolutism is, getting to this point, and and finding out, hey man, I'm a free speech absolutist. This is really cool. I didn't really know what it was. I thought that a free speech absolutist was going to be like Nick Fuentes. I was like, that's a free speech absolute. Nick Fuentes, somebody who wants to deny the Holocaust. That's a free speech absolutist, and I was kind of turned off by it. And when I was confronted by a bunch of people that just wanted to be vulgar on the internet, and I mistook what it was, and now I know, that we've got more stuff for you here, Willie. If you still have time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got time probably to about 12, 15, 12, 20. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, I only have a couple more questions anyway. So then we could talk about other things if you want to.
Sure.
Or if you want to talk about this, which is fine too. Okay. Is it okay for white nationalists to burn pride and LGBTQ flags?
If they buy it themselves and they didn't steal it, and if it's on their property in the middle of the woods, or
if they're not,
and they're not in a threatening environment, sure. I mean, again, just sort of like the American flag. I mean, you don't have to like it, but and somebody came up with this scenario. It's like, well, flag burning's legal, but somebody went to jail for 12 years for burning the pride flag. But it was found out that the person that burned the pride flag stole the flag from a pro LGBTQ church in Iowa. They just stole the flag from the church. They had probably an Episcopal church stole the flag, and they torched the flag, and they did some jail time because they had, I think it was something to do with 3 strikes you're out or something like that.
Okay, so there were other circumstances.
Yes.
It wasn't just that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But you want to use something like that for your narrative. This is how people are.
And of course, with the 3 strikes you're out, I mean, we can have a debate about whether that's right or not. I mean, sure, yeah, maybe going to prison for 12, 15 years may be a little bit harsh too, but I would say do something about that law too, even though I may not respect the person who burned the LGBTQ flag.
Did you see the video of the guy that he's a podcaster? He's trying to make a name for himself. He's a right winger. He's walking through Walmart, and there was an LGBTQ display at one of the cash registers. It was a rainbow flag type thing or whatever, and he reached up and he grabbed it and he threw it on the ground in the middle of the Walmart and kept walking while somebody was behind him videoing it for the very purpose of him, enriching himself based on hate. That's part of free speech absolutism. Is that part of it, or these damaging private property?
He's damaging property.
So if he had brought his own flag in there and stomped on it, he would have been as far as a free speech absolutist. I'm not saying you personally, Willie. I'm basically asking if as far as free speech absolutism goes, that's okay. If it's his own property and he wants to destroy it anywhere, you're okay in front of whoever. Like, let's say there's a private, let's say there's a wedding going on. So somebody can't just walk in and disturb a wedding to say whatever and hold up signs and protest, or what's free speech absolutism say about
they don't have the right
going into a public or a private setting and disturbing it and disrupting it?
Well, they don't have a right to go and disrupt a wedding or what have you. I mean, but as I said, the gentleman that did that at the Walmart, he took something that didn't belong to him and basically, damaged something that didn't belong to him. If he bought it and did it, kind of damaged the property he bought, or if he brought it from home and did that just to make an ass out of himself, again, that's on him.
That's a good answer. Okay, here is the last question I have written down. It's, who are some prominent free speech absolutists we can listen to today? That are
Garland Nixon, for one.
Garland Nixon.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm going to write these names. Yeah. And Nixon, who is that?
He's the advocate for Julian Assange. He's a former police officer, but he's also he's a radio talk show host, and he's an advocate for Julian Assange. I saw him speak at the Assange rally back in October at the Department of Justice, and I was really impressed with him. And I should have known who he was previously, but now I know who he is. And free speech is what he advocates. Glenn Greenwald, of course, he's also good.
Greenwald is a free speech absolutist.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. This is going to get interesting. Ben, that used to work with him, his last name just escaped me all of a sudden. At the Gray Zone.
Ben Norton.
Ben Norton is siding against the United States and a couple of other countries on a bill that wanted to silence Nazi speak. Do you remember? Did you see this with Ben Norton? About
I did not see that with Ben Norton, but
about a year to 6 months ago. This is a real interesting journey we're about to go on.
Okay,
so my personal belief. Now, this is before I knew I was a free speech absolutist. Was you got to let Nazis speak until they say they want to go start hurting people, or they want to do violence, or they want to commit crimes. I said, but just because someone calls himself a Nazi, I was like, if we start with Nazis, we're going to move on to the next group. We're going to move on to the next group. We're going to move on to the next group. So that was my argument. Now, I know how you feel. You've already stated how you feel about Adolf Hitler and all that. So I know where you're at with that. However, I also know where you are with free speech. So Ben Norton is taking the side of the rest of all the world that says we want to ban Nazi speech. We want to ban the way they express themselves. We want to ban the swastika, the flag. There was a bunch of things that they wanted to do. And what America said was, hey, we can't start doing that, because if you start going after them, you're going down a slippery slope. I mean, to me, I'm like, that makes the most sense. But Ben Norton, he wanted to silence the Nazis, and he did this whole thing about why that bill was so important. And I did a thing about Ben Norton, and I went back and forth with Ben Norton, and this is what I said, bro. I said, Ben, I said, if you silence the Nazis, they're going to come for the Jews next. And I said, you don't want to start this. I said, they're going to come after you. And I said, when they come after you, I'm going to be right there reminding you that I told you this was going to happen. And man, it wasn't 6 months later. Do you remember when he got shut down on YouTube? They shut Ben Norton down, or it was Twitter or YouTube?
The only thing I remember about him is he had a falling out with the Gray Zone, and I believe he moved to Nicaragua.
Okay, this was before that, and he went on one of the left-leaning podcasts. The guy's bald. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head. Bald, lefty guy. Anyway, Ben went on with him, and both of them started discussing the fact that both of their channels on YouTube have been completely shut down and subverted. Their notifications aren't going out. They're getting strikes and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I said, that's it. That's what it feels like. That is what it feels like when you start cheering on silencing one group and you're not paying attention. You need to be fighting for that group. I know it sucks. I don't want to fight for Nazis, man. That's the last thing I want to do is fight for Nazis. But if I don't fight for Nazis, they're coming after me next, because I'm in 6 groups, bro. I belong to 6 different groups that are on the list to be silenced. I already went through this on my show. So, you know, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I know I've been told that you don't let them start, don't get their foot in the door, because as soon as their foot's in the door, you know, oh, we're only gonna block from K to 3, DeSantis said. And I said, no, man, they're gonna go right up through high school and college. They're gonna start yanking you out. Sure enough, they're already up through college. They're already up through 12th grade. Sure enough, they're yanking prisoners. No, you can't do the surgery. That's an adult. Oh, well, they're a prisoner. They don't have rights anymore. Okay, well, you can't get the medication. You can't do this. You can't do that. And they already, man, they're put their whole damn bodies in the door now in Florida, and I'm here. I'm fine.
Yeah. As I said, I didn't know about I didn't know about the whole situation with Ben Norton. So
it's interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
You can go check that out.
I do know that I remember that the World Socialist website, one of the people from the World Socialist website made it on the Jimmy Dore show a couple of years ago, and they were talking about censorship. And right after the interview, the guy from the Worldwide Socialist website was advocating for censorship, and then as soon as he left the show, the Worldwide Socialist website was shut down.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, it's back up, but I mean, it was actually shut down. You know, it was censored.
It is from Jimmy Dore, because Jimmy Dore's got thousands of eyes. He goes live, he's got 10,000 people watching him.
Right. And Jimmy Dore he's within his rights to tell the guy, "I told you so."
Yeah.
I mean, he's more right than he is wrong. I mean, you know, a lot of people give him a lot of crap, but you know, and I don't agree with every single thing that Jimmy Dore says, but you know, but when he's correct, he's really correct.
Yeah, he's right about a lot of things. He's developed kind of though an echo chamber, and I've been watching him for a long time. I've been a long time supporter of his show, and his wife and I became friends, and me and Ron Placone became friends, and me and Graham Elwood became friends. And
I met his wife.
Yeah, is she great? She's so
yeah,
smart.
I met her at the comedy show in Raleigh last year. I saw Jimmy Dore do his comedy show, and but I didn't meet him in person. I met his wife though.
Yeah, well, Steph blocked me on Twitter.
Oh,
so
well, I'm sorry.
Hey man, full disclosure here. I'm not holding I'm not pulling anything back here. I mean, she blocked me. He blocked me first. He went after me. He smeared me, and then he blocked me. And then she and I lasted for about another year after that. And then finally she blocked me. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm surprised it lasted that long. I was waiting for that block to come down. It's, hey, you're married to the man that blocked me. I don't blame you one bit. I was texting her and talking to her all the time. So
actually, they cheer me. They barely know who I am. They barely know who I am. They cheered me the day I broadcasted that Nomiki Kantz from Majority Report blocked me. Because
Nomiki Kantz.
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Oh, she's annoying.
Oh boy, bro. There is a level of delusion that when you see it, I can only watch it. I mean, as a free speech absolutist, you're willing to listen to other people and whatever. And I've learned to sit and listen. I will sit and I will listen to Alex Jones. I will sit and I will listen to not too many other people, but I mean, it's just so I can hear what they're saying and why people seem to be drawn to these people, and what level, to what extent someone is willing to go to act out, you know, like someone like Alex Jones does, and kind of just to study them and just to sit back and wonder, scratch my head. But there's some other people that I completely disagree with, that like H.A. Goodman. You ever checked him out?
I've heard of him, but I'm not familiar with him. Now with Alex Jones, I obviously don't agree with him, but he makes me laugh. I never was upset with Alex Jones. I mean, Sean Hannity pisses me off, or someone like that, or Mark Levin, or someone like that. Alex Jones, all I ever did was laugh at the guy because he's so unhinged.
Right.
That's all I could do. I mean, I was like,
there's two new guys. They're a real problem, bro. They're this the guy who spoke at the RNC. Wow, Michael
Knowles.
Oh God, bro, he's a nightmare.
I hate that guy.
He's a young Adolf Hitler in training. And then you've got this other guy. He looks just and sounds and talks just like Steven Crowder. He's got a mustache and a beard though.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Gosh, I know who you're talking about. I cannot think of his name.
Right. These guys are real problems. This is
yeah,
a real
Matt
problem.
Walsh.
Yes, Matt Walsh. Both of them are at that point of delusion where you look at them and you're like, you don't even believe your own bullshit, do you? You're just doing this because you know people are going to be drawn to you. You don't even believe the things he says about trans people. Where do you stand on that, bro? He's calling for basically the elimination of people. I mean, is that hate speech? That's out of the realm of
It is definitely hate speech. He says just enough to say, well, I don't mean you murdered. I mean, he'll say that, but he's saying that they don't have a right to express themselves. I think he's giving himself enough wiggle room to say these things, to do a campaign to cancel culture them. I think that's probably what he's trying to imply, but his followers are going to imply it a different way. So that's a kind of a slippery slope.
Wow, man. So where are you with Jackson Hinkle politically?
I used to listen to Jackson Hinkle quite a bit when he was more left leaning, but
me too.
And here's the thing: I get called a Putin puppet because I oppose the war in Russia and Ukraine. I oppose the U.S. doing this sort of thing. I'm not a Putin apologist. I'm not a Russia apologist. I mean, but I'm no fan of Zelensky either. But every time I started watching it, after a while, it was just too much. All he just did was praise Putin nonstop on the show. I'm just like, I just couldn't take it. And so I kind of stopped watching his show.
So I kind of had this little thing for Putin for a little bit until I learned more about him. My buddy's, he lives in Denmark. His name's Cyber Reload. He's usually on the show at nights with me playing video games. Him and I have known each other for years and years and years. And we sometimes have differing political opinions and we share them with each other. And we're great. We could talk like that. And, I'm 75% Russian. So, when this whole thing started, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was 75% Russian a year ago. I had no idea. I knew that I was 99 it's crazy. I think it's 99.9% Ashkenazi Jew. And I knew that my relatives were coming from Poland, Romania, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. But what I didn't know was that the majority of all my blood was Russian, because Russia took over some of these countries where, I was thinking I was one thing, but it was actually Russians. It was all Russians. So I found out, throughout the course of this war, my sister and I were talking. She's like, you're 75% Russian. I'm 75% Russian. And dad is 75% Russian. And mom has no Russian in her at all. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is crazy. I'm like, so, I guess mom's got like 25% Russian or whatever it is, but it comes out to 75%. But I was like, so basically America's going after my motherland, and I've got friends that are Russian, and I just kind of got more into it, and I got interested in it. And then, that report came out, man, about what Vladimir Putin was doing to the Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. And BBC did an expose, bro. I think it was BBC. They did this big report, man. It's like an hour and a half long documentary where they show how they just drag them out of their homes and throw them in prison and beat them, and it's horrible. And then I was like, dude, I don't want to be Russian anymore. I want to just disassociate. These people are horrible. They're just as bad as America going around and spreading imperialism and dragging people out of their homes in other countries. Mm-hmm. Russia's doing it to people in their country too, and it's all bad. Blah 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 blah. And then within the span of the last, I guess I would say the last 3 months or so, seriously, I've kind of just been like, yeah, the war just needs to end. And I liked cheering against America because I freaking hated all of the the past, what was going on in Ukraine, and watching Jimmy Dore and understanding, about 2014 and, overthrowing the government. And I know the whole story, and we've covered it on this. And I've showed the documentary about the overthrow of the Ukrainian government, the Russian basically favoring government of Ukraine in 2014, and how they burned people alive, and it was horrible. And then they shelled people in their homes, and we went through all the history of everything. And and then I got to the point where I was like, dude, I just can't pick sides. It's just got to end, and now I'm just anti-war. But it took me a while to get to where I am today. Listening to
people. As I said, I make no apologies for what they do in Russia, whether it's a persecution to LGBTQ or persecution to Jehovah's Witnesses or what have you, or in Ukraine, persecution to LGBTQ, persecution of the Russian Orthodox Church.
Mm-hmm. Or African Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying African Americans. I mean Africans. It doesn't. Those are African Americans.
And the Nazi element in the Ukraine, and not everybody in the Ukraine are Nazis, but why people are in denial in America about the Nazi element, the Azov Battalion, and haven't explained that to people, just like I'm like, that's a problem when Stefan Bandera is being celebrated.
Correct. And that's when you go and you look at the sporting events and realize it's a lot more than just people in the military. It's sport. It's the most popular sport in Europe, football. And that is where this is going on. And you have hundreds of people. Now, there's thousands in the stadiums, but there's in sections, bro. They will all get together, and then they will just beat the crap out of people, and based on the color of their skin or whatever. And they're calling the other team Jews. They're saying defeat the Jews. These are the chants they're saying. And it's horrible. You could see that if you want to see that documentary, I've got it. I can send it to you. But
yeah,
it's not fun to watch, man. It's hard. They did a really good job on it, though. It's crazy. The guy went undercover a couple of times, and he talked to people that didn't realize they were being recorded, and got them, to basically just out. They're like, well, we don't really think about too much. This is just what everybody says, and blah, blah, blah. We just hate the Jews. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, you don't really think about that. It's your history, or they don't talk about that in school there, and they don't want to talk about it in school in Florida. And bro, they're just removed in Florida. I got it in the newspaper. They just removed a book that was written by somebody that went through the Holocaust, and somebody said, I don't want that book in school where my child is, and they removed the book from the library. It was like in St. Pete or someplace. But that's how they're going to do it. They're going to do it one book at a time, in one county at a time. They're already doing it. They've been removing books. It's really scary. They also took off some LGBTQ related Disney movie or something that was in a library too, because a character was an LGBTQ character in the Disney movie or something. So,
do you hear what's happening? I'm not exactly a fan of David Pakman anymore. I used to be, but I'm kind of away from David Pakman.
Good for you.
But what's happening to him is enough to make me feel sorry for him. Apparently, Candace Owens and Donald Trump Jr. are declaring war against David Pakman, trying to have his program yanked off the air.
Okay, I could say two things about that. The first thing I'll say about that is that's gonna just explode him, which is great. He's gonna get more eyes on him, more people will listen to him now, and he'll survive this, I'm sure. For what's their point? How is he a danger to them?
Well, it's because he made a remark about the shooting in Nashville and talk about the thoughts and prayers that some of the right wingers are talking about. He made it was something to the effect of, would it be nice to come up with something other than thoughts and prayers? And they got like really upset over it. It's like, well, how dare you say this? We're going to go and get advertisers to pull the advertisers out and everything. And
well, yeah, he does have a TV show. I've seen it. He was on cable in California, which was really cool. Yeah, I could see him on TV, bro. I used to watch him on TV.
I didn't know he was actually on TV. I always associated him with
David Pakman because I didn't like his narrative anymore, because he would only cover what he wanted to cover. That only made the left look good, and he wouldn't cover all the stories. And if I was like vacuuming in my house, I would turn the TVs on and I'd watch David Pakman.
Well, David Pakman, I just kind of got bored with David Pakman after 2016. It was just kind of, and he kind of snapped at me a couple of weeks, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, because I saw a video clip where he decided to go and kind of he took a crap on Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard, and basically said, well, the Ukrainian government wants the U.S. to put him on a blacklist, and he can understand why. And I said to David Pakman, well, this is kind of why I stopped watching your show. And he kind of nonchalantly, he's like, you stopped watching my show because what the Ukrainians got right about Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard? And then he says, well, you can do what you want to do. I wasn't even mad at him. He got kind of sarcastic with me.
Did you super chat that at him on one of his podcasts?
No, it was it was on Twitter. He kind of tweeted back.
Responded to a tweet from you?
That's
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Look, do you know how many times I've tweeted at David Pakman? Maybe 400 tweets. He's never responded to a single one.
It's the only tweet I've ever tweeted at David Pakman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was the only conversation I've ever had with David Pakman, and he happened to catch it, and he took exception to it.
I'm glad that he responded to you, man. Actually, that makes me like him a little bit more, because I thought he just ignored everybody, but he talked to you. And I got to tell you, I've seen him. He responded to me when I super chatted him on his podcast, and he kind of got a little aggravated with me. It's funny the way he is, but I've just seen too much cheerleading from him and not enough of his ability to see the whole picture. He's got blinders on, and they're very focused. So that was my biggest problem with David Pakman. I go back and start pulling out tweets, where I tweeted at him. I'm like, I take exception to this, and I disagree with you on this, and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, Pakman's funny. I thought it was interesting with Jimmy Dore. My biggest problem with Jimmy Dore is some of the scientists that he has on his show. I want you to check out. Do you watch Dore all the time? Like if he goes live?
I watch him whenever he pops up on the screen. I watch him fairly often. I obviously like him. I saw him live. I paid money to see him live. So
right. Okay. There was I forgot what the point was I was going to say. Holy moly.
Something about scientists.
There is, he has these two guys, but let's just go with John Campbell. John Campbell. He loves John Campbell. Dr. John Campbell, the guy that circles and underlines things when he's talking. He's always underlining and check marking next to things. Everything he talks about is COVID, COVID, COVID. It's all COVID.
Mm.
You ever seen that guy on Jimmy Dore?
I don't remember.
I watch Jimmy Dore way more than you do, bro.
Yeah.
He's got this guy on all the time. So there's a woman. She's a research scientist, and she's really good. She's got a YouTube channel. It's called Back to the Science. And on a regular basis, she debunks John Campbell because John Campbell is a quack. And he doesn't understand most of the things he talks about. So what she does is she explains it, and she explains it in really basic terms. And, the last upload she did was only 3 minutes long, and it's fantastic. John Campbell had this list, and at the top of the list was COVID and a bunch of other diseases that they were vaccinating for. And he goes, you notice they put COVID at the top of the list. He makes a big deal about it. And she goes, well, if you notice, if you look at the list, it's in alphabetical order. But John Campbell didn't notice that. It is an alphabetized list. This guy misses like basic stuff that a little kid would even know. And Jimmy Dore, treats him like he's some kind of a guru, like, oh, and he always says, all of my peers tell me I'm crazy. No one ever wants to listen to this or that or blah, 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 blah. Campbell says it all the time. And you're like, yeah, there's a reason for that, man, But anyway, if you get a chance, just go to Back to the Science on YouTube. Just go to her channel. She's hilarious. You're going to love her. And just check on some of her debunking of Campbell and try to get Jimmy Dore to have her on. And he won't. He'll ignore you and then he'll block you. So don't try. Stay friends with Jimmy Dore. But I'm just telling you, he's not going to have someone like her on. He's not going to have that counter balance to his narrative. And that's sad, man. That's the reason why I don't watch Jimmy Dore anymore. And, that was the reason why him and I were arguing back and forth about medical stuff. And it was about, myocarditis and what's aspirating and all of that stuff. It was all from John Campbell. And I'm in Florida, and our Surgeon General is Dr. Lopato, but I call him Lobotomy. He's appointed by Ron DeSantis, and he's another whack job, bro. I wouldn't be surprised we see him on Jimmy Dore soon too. He's been making the rounds. So he was on Kim Iverson's show, and she treated him like gold because he was, the appointed medical Surgeon General here in Florida. So he must be an authority. And this is how they run this narrative, and it drives me crazy. I would love for you to check out Back to the Science, though. You can see it, so I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I'll see if when I get a chance, I'll go ahead and check it out. Absolutely.
All right, great. Is there anything you want to talk about? Because there's all kinds of things going on in the world right now. If there's any current events.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Right now,
I've got something. Extra Bulla.
Yes.
Okay.
He's running. Yeah.
Yeah, he's running for something. So go ahead and explain to me what's going on.
Well, on Due Dissonance, you familiar with Due Dissonance?
No.
Keaton Weiss, Russell Dobular. I can never pronounce his name correctly. They're these two guys up in New York. They're like the one of the fastest growing shows on the online left right now. I would check them out if I were you. They're so
Due Dissidence. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. Check them. I actually interviewed them a few months ago. As I said, they're growing right now. They were on since you're down in Florida. They were on what's the name? The Jen Perlman program, Generational Change.
I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with Jen Perlman?
No.
Yeah, she ran against what's her name, Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the Democratic primaries a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, she's actually a pretty cool lady. Her name is.
She's trying to beat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She has my vote.
Yeah, she's very cool. Anyway, they endorsed Warren Extrabulla this past Friday, and so he decided, well, maybe he should run for president. So he's been done some interviews so far and everything.
Wait,
so
he's running for president of the United States?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I thought he was running for like some kind of a local position. Okay, so it's he wants to be president of the United States.
Yep.
What's his platform? Because you support this guy for president?
Well, considering what the options are right now, I mean,
I
Bernie,
agree. I'm with you.
I don't want Bernie to run again. I'm burned out from Bernie. I mean,
Jimmy Dore's not going to run.
Jimmy Dore's not going to run. I don't think he's going to run. I heard his wife doesn't want him to run. That's what I'm hearing. And Marianne Williamson, I have nothing against her, but if Bernie can't make it, she's not going to be able to make it because she's not on point with the policies like he is. Bernie's got his faults, but Bernie's second to none on policies. But he just doesn't have any. He just doesn't have any backbone. That's the problem with Bernie.
Right.
He's superior on policy. I'll give him that. But he doesn't have any backbone.
But you're right about his policy. It's written perfectly. And then when it comes time to represent that policy, he backs off. And when he could double down, and yeah, you're right. You've got him nailed. I totally agree. I voted for Bernie. I wrote him in, when he wasn't on the ballot, I wrote him in California. And I was very sad to see him, support for just bend over for Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC. And I hated that whole thing.
Yeah.
I felt like we got beat so bad.
Well, Big Mac Crab may be running too. No, he's actually running too. So it's going to be basically Extra Booyah and Big Mac Crab competing against each other.
So wait, so what is the Booyah platform?
Basically, Medicare for all, living wage, free college, getting us out of this war, legalizing drugs, basically the laundry list of things that we are all for that our mainstream politicians are not. Okay, so Bernie Sanders platform for the most part. Yeah, I always call it Bernie Sanders plus. Okay, and he can still walk. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, I don't know how much time Bernie's got left. Yeah. Same thing with Big Man Crab. He's for the same thing. He's young too. Yeah, he's a little bit younger. That's interesting. So I saw him saying something about 2024, and I didn't know what it was, but now we know. So that's interesting. Don't you support another candidate, or was that it? I'm right now. That's what as far as the presidency, that's my choice. Is there anything local that you were looking at, or no? Locally, yeah. Well, I don't know where the Green Party is right now on the ballot here in North Carolina and all that. But as far as when it comes to activism, I'm taking a serious look at Worker Strike Back. That's Kashama Sawant's group. Are you familiar with Kashama Sawant? Yes. I'm really impressed by what she's doing, and I'm impressed by her approach with Worker Strike Back. Organizing the private and public sector, and that's what it's going to have to take right now. Because the mainstream politicians are not going to. They don't listen to us. Correct. They do not. Yeah, they really don't. Are you listening to what Marianne Williamson is saying on Twitter? I peek every now and then, and I follow her, but I don't. I mean, she's a nice lady, and I know that sounds condescending. I mean, she seems all right. I just don't. I just don't. I just don't want to work within the Democratic Party. She's very nice. Let me tell you something. I saw her go on the RBN, Revolutionary Blackout Network. That's good. I like RBN. Yeah, and they kind of ambushed her. They brought, Unholy Rome. Yes, I did. Yeah, so he's my buddy, and they kind of brought in some extra people at the end of that interview, and Marianne Williamson was kind of placed. She was kind of pushed up against a wall at the end of that interview. But what I noticed about Marianne Williamson, what I liked about her, was she seemed polite, even then when she was in a hostile environment. They were treating her hostilely, and which kind of shocked me. I was like, I understand the questioning completely. I didn't like the attitude towards her, and there was some attitude, and it wasn't necessary, and it could have been done a little bit more professionally, but that's fine. It was an exciting moment, and I think everybody benefited from it. But what I liked about Marianne Williamson during that was not only was that she was polite, and she got to show how she can handle herself when people are being a little hostile to her, but her reaction to stand up for herself and to say, you know what, I've had enough.
And she put her foot down, and it didn't matter to me whether she was misunderstanding what was going on the other side of the camera or not. Whatever she perceived, man, her reaction was perfect. It was classy. And you know what, man? I'm not into crystals, bro. What can I say? I don't believe in that. There's an energy force that holds us all together and binds us like the force from Star Wars. I don't subscribe to some of her beliefs, but she's a Medicare for all person, and she's got some of the other ideas that Bernie Sanders had that I also agree with. The biggest thing is if all of us could just get her on the same page as us with what's going on in that war. I don't understand I don't know where she's coming from. It is the weirdest thing. I thought she was with us. And then when it comes to war, she's like, we have to fight Russia. We have to fight Russia. Who are you talking to? Hillary Clinton? I mean, where are you getting this from? I don't understand how she's so progressive and so supportive of the war at the same time.
That I don't understand either. And
is
there's
that the no-go at that point? Is that the one thing that stops you from supporting her? Is there anything else?
That's definitely one. That's definitely a strike against her. But I just don't want to go through what I went through with Bernie in 2016, 2020. It's the biggest thing. I mean, I just don't want to go through that again. I
want to hear our policies being discussed on the big stage, though. And she would be talking
about what now?
Our policies, the things that we are interested in as progressive independents, or whatever you consider yourself, as a Bernie supporter, the Bernie platform, and she would be discussing hopefully a bunch of those issues and just throwing them up there and just using her for that purpose. For me, I mean, if we're gonna endorse somebody that's not gonna win, that's just doesn't have a chance, then I don't mind having the debates going on, and I think that she was a good vehicle for some of our beliefs.
Well, as I said, I wish her luck, and all that. I'm not gonna be like some folks that be like, I'm not gonna tear her down about it, but I just been there, done that. I mean, whether it's Bernie Sanders or even prior with people like Dennis Kucinich, I'm just kind of just been burned out. I've just been, pun
intended. Bernie.
I've seen what AOC and the rest of the squad, they're not going to do anything. They just sit there. They just want to play along to get along. Right. And it took me a while. But when AOC voted to bust the strike of the rail workers, I'm like, okay, they can't even do that. They can't even support striking workers.
No, and that's when I start shying away from politics. When I see someone like Kyle Kalinske and Jank building the squad, and spending however much money and time and effort and energy into doing what they did. And man, as much as I cannot stand either of them, and I was a big supporter of both of them at one time, big supporter of both of them. And as we grew apart and I saw what they were doing with the squad, even at that point, I was already away from them, but I was like, I like what you're doing with the squad. That's a good idea. And then they were successful. They built the squad. They got them elected. They did it. Wow. It was crazy. Guess what? We're not going to get anything. You know why? Because politics is a lie. And the way our system is set up now with being able to buy people off, you just can't beat greed. And as long as greed's a factor in politics, man, until greed comes out, we're going to just keep putting people in. I'm afraid the very next person, doesn't matter how sweet and awesome we think that person is, man, that's what I thought about Barack Obama. I was like, this guy's never going to screw us over. I can't wait to see this guy go in there and just do what he says he's going to do. And he went in there and just started, kind of playing ball, Yeah,
I mean, it was like George W. Bush never left office, and we're still in. Let's see, it still feels like George W. Bush never left office.
Right. I wish I'd pay money to have George W. Bush be our president again.
Oh no! I think he's the worst president we ever had. Because of the Iraq War.
I'm looking on the horizon, bro. I'm looking at Ron DeSantis. You know,
You see, Ron DeSantis is going to be worse than George W. Bush for if he gets in there. Actually, I have joked about DeSantis. I said that Ron DeSantis is basically George W. Bush on policy, and all of Donald Trump's rough edges without the comedy show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep. You got it. You pretty much got it. I mean, you know about the torturing. You know about the gerrymandering, you know about the book burning, you know about the Disney, you know about, and the list keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. And there's so many things. At some point, my Republican friends that support Ron DeSantis, because I live here in Florida, I grew up here. So when I talk to my friends that support Ron DeSantis, they refer to him as Ronnie, good old Ronnie. You know, they love this guy. And when you're looking at that level of differences between the people that you grew up with, it makes you just want to walk away, man. I just want to walk away from politics. These are my friends, man. I don't want to fight my friends. You know, it's like, I get it. I totally get why they feel like the way they feel, even though I didn't come to the same conclusions that they did. And I wish I could convince them. But at this point in our lives, we're in our 50s. Nobody wants to change, man. So having a conversation with someone like you, it's nice. It's really nice to be able to express the frustration. And like someone my mother is seeing, you know, and my mom is a Democrat, bro. She's a hardcore Democrat, but even she can see the hypocrisy behind everything we're being faced with politically today. Today I saw Pete Buttigieg on CNN, and Don Lemon asked him a direct question. And Pete Buttigieg looked right in the camera and didn't answer it. I mean, he just gave some kind of and I'm waiting for the answer to come out. What are we going to do about these derailments? And what he said is the reason we've cut down on derailments, that's how he started the sentence. And that's the way he finished it. And I was like, and Don Lemon let him say it. We are not going to change things with the way we're doing it now. My whole thing is to revert back to like Ron. Do you watch Ron Placone?
Yes, I do occasionally.
Great. Check him out more. I would say check out Ron Placone as much as possible. Is going back to localized farmers markets and local governments and locally enriching each other and not so much worried about what's going on outside of your general region, so that we can survive without the supports of the government eventually when the government goes down or whatever the reasoning is. This is what I've been looking at for a long time, is living off grid and sustaining myself and being able to survive and not relying on politics and the government to take care of me, because at some point that's all going to go away. My mom's like, well, it's not going to go away while I'm still here. And I'm like, have you been looking at how quick fascism is taking over in Florida? How long are the people going to be able to take it for? When is it all going to collapse? I don't know. But
yeah, I'm tell you one thing. I am absolutely frightened by the prospects of this man becoming president, because I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. Everybody think it's a foregone conclusion. Oh, if Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, he's going to just run right over this guy. No. And hopefully neither will Ron DeSantis be the nominee. Hopefully they will both be damaged goods. They will be slinging so much mud at each other. I at least in the next year, I'm going to be entertained. I'll have a lot of content on Twitter when Donald Trump's able to start talking his smack on Twitter, and him and DeSantis are insulting each other. This is going to be fun watching that.
Nikki Haley might step up, and take.
Oh gosh, Nikki Haley, yeah, like she's basically she looks like Tulsi Gabbard, but her policies, her foreign policies, just like John Bolton.
She's a war hawk.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tulsi talks peace now, but she went to war herself.
She's not perfect. She's not perfect. She's got some. She's got but I used to like Tulsi. In fact, I wanted Tulsi to be Bernie's running mate years ago. I wanted to but they did Tulsi dirty, and I think it's why the Tulsi kind of went in a bad direction.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not the way.
I've been calling Tulsi a Republican for years.
Yeah. Well, I think that when Hillary Clinton started calling her a Russian asset and everything, I think that might, I think that they just kind of pushed her in a direction where she started to get a little bit of love and affection, and now she ends up substituting for Tucker Carlson on Fox News, and they really lost somebody that could have been I think that the left should have work a little harder to try to defend Tulsi and to kind of keep her away from turning to the right. So, but that's just me, But anyway, I do need to do something. I have another stream I have to do in a little bit. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd love to come on back, and if you ever want to come on my show, feel free, sure. And you can. Right. The invitation is set. Okay.
Thank you so much, Willie. Take care, brother.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had fun and enjoyed it. Willie Bragg TV on YouTube, guys. Bye.
All right, and let's see. Okay, and everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off right now because I got something else I have to do. I normally do talk on the chat line here, so let me do this here real quick. I will talk if y'all wait a few minutes. I will be at 12:30 on a new stream. So just give me a few minutes, folks, and I will talk to y'all in about 10 minutes. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.